mic on bang. Nombor 4 on. Nombor 4 mic on.
Okay, done.
Test 1 2 test 1 2.
Thank you.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2.
Test.
Ladies and gentlemen, announcing the arrival of our guest of honor, the Honorable Datuk Zainal Abidin bin Abu Hassan, accompanied by our honored guests. National Anthem Negaraku. Ladies and gentlemen, we kindly invite you to take your seats. Thank you. And thank you to the Honorable Senator Ras Adiba Radzi for doing the sign language for our national anthem. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and a very good afternoon. Our guest of honor, the Honorable Datuk Zainal Abidin bin Abu Hassan, Secretary General of Ministry of Housing and Local Government, the Honorable Datuk Azhar bin Ahmad, Deputy Secretary General of Ministry of Housing and Local Government, Your Excellency Datuk Sri Maimunah Muhammad Sharif, the Executive Director of the United Nations Human Settlements Programme UN Habitat,
You are now unmuted.
Datuk Dolbani bin Mijan, the Board of Directors of Urbanis, Town Planner Madam Noliza Hashim, Chief Executive of Urbanis Malaysia, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, Honorable State Executive Councils, Mayors and Councillors, representatives of national, state and local governments, respected speakers, moderators and participants of Malaysia Urban Forum 2020. To begin this ceremony with blessings from Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, I would like to invite Yang Berusaha Dr. Muhammad Hafian bin Mahmud to lead the Doa recitation. Please be invited.
Al-Fatiha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ya Allah, Engkaulah penguasa langit dan bumi serta pemeliharaan antara keduanya. Ya Allah, kami merafakkan syukuran ini di atas keizinan-Mu untuk kami menimba ilmu selama 3 hari dalam Malaysia Urban Forum 2020. Kami juga bersyukur kerana Engkau mengizinkan kami menghadirikan diri, emosi dan roh kami sehingga dapat menyelesaikan forum ini dengan jayanya. Kurniakanlah kami kekuatan untuk mengusahakan apa yang kami bincangkan ke arah dunia yang lebih mampan untuk masa akan datang. Ya Allah, bagimu segala puji. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina azabannar. Amin amin.
Amin amin ya rabbal alamin. Thank you for the doa, Dr. Muhammad Hafian bin Mahmud. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the opening ceremony, the closing ceremony of Malaysia Urban Forum 2020. My name is Amalia and my partner here is Yasmin, who will be the master of the ceremony for the blessed event today. So Yasmin, didn't you say that we have a special appearance today? Would you mind telling us all what is it about?
Yes, Leah, we have a poetry reading today by Empathy for Youth. So please welcome Tanusha and Ilaika from Empathy for Youth to recite their lovely poem they worked on specifically for the Malaysia Urban Forum.
If KL could talk, she would say, "Oh girl, I need to exercise. So much of kuah and sambal to eat with rice. Char kway teow, thosai, rendang and budu. How can I live without you?"
If KL could talk, she'd gasp as she looked up at the flashing lights on KLCC that stood on her land proudly and say, "Wow, I didn't know I looked so grand at night."
If KL could talk, she would be happy that her children are talented in many different activities. When they bring back medals and trophies, she would cry tears of joy. If KL could talk, she'd be proud that her children are working together to help eradicate the number of COVID-19 cases like no other.
I agree. If KL could talk, she'd sing Nagaraku as she closes her eyes and looks back on her children's achievements proudly. But if KL could talk, she'd itch her back and scratch her head and wonder, what are these tiny rubbish bags doing all over my body?
Yeah, if KL could talk, she would be so frustrated with the dirtying, littering, disgusting rats and cockroaches itching her daily. Let's have some empathy.
If KL could talk, she'd say the concrete clothes she wears lack identity. She doesn't know who she is, actually. My designers want me to have a more modern look, like London, New York, Tokyo, Amsterdam, but I'm not them.
If KL could talk, she would feel so violated that we tarnish her body and boundaries, suffering from pollution and secondhand smoking, destroying her health and beauty.
And if KL could talk, she would say,
"Dear my children of many races, I love you. I gave birth to many beautiful children, and it makes me sad when I see you guys fighting. My only wish is for all of you to work together and not pick sides when a problem is addressed. I also beg you guys to have empathy towards one another so that you can understand each of your problems. Love, your mother."
If KL could talk, she'd smile fondly down at us, held in her hands, and thank you for helping her be the great city she is today.
And if KL could talk, she would say, "Please look after your sisters. Treat them equally, okay?"
Thank you. My name is Alea Ilaika.
And I am Tanusha Manimutu. We are from Empathy for Youth. We have empathy for our city, and we have empathy for you.
Give a round of applause.
Thank you, Laika and Tanusha, for such a beautiful poem recitation. Empathy for Youth offers emotional literacy classes to kids and teens. Look them up.
Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to call upon the stakeholder group representatives to deliver their stakeholder statement of actions. Please be invited.
We would like to call upon stakeholder representatives from the Women's Assembly, Ms. Lisa Fernandez, from the Youth Assembly, Muhammad Akil Hafizuddin, from the Grassroots Assembly, Ms. Fatin Farhana Abdul Majid, and from the City Leaders Assembly, Mr. Delrin Terrence Douglas. Please come to the stage. Please welcome them to the stage.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lisa, and I'm representing the Women's Assembly. The participants of the Women's Assembly in Malaysia Urban Forum 2020 adopted key learnings from the past forum, determined to embark on a strategic way forward to advance gender-responsive urbanization. A women's stakeholder lab was held for the first time earlier this month, bringing together over 20 women's organizations to identify and prioritize with the issues within the 4 pillars established last year, namely the social, political, physical infrastructure, and economic areas. The virtual interactive session prioritized 8 issues and recommendations. This enabled the Women's Assembly Roundtable to engage and identify potential leadership and commitment to drive the action plans among civil society organizations and government stakeholders. A MUF Women's Assembly Committee was established to strategize a short to mid-term plan that is operational and measurable to ensure its implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. A key consideration moving forward is to advocate as a flagship project the methodology of gender-responsive and participatory budgeting, otherwise known as GRPB, to achieve the goal of gender-responsive urbanization. This is a proven good practice in understanding and addressing the needs of every member of society. The disaggregated data from this initiative will also aid evidence-based policy making. Mainstreaming gender in policies, programs, and projects will address issues across the 4 clusters, such as gender-based violence, safe and gender-inclusive cities, women entrepreneurs in the B40, as well as representation of women in key decision-making spaces, including legislative and executive levels. Through multi-stakeholder engagement and adopting a common approach, ministries, local government, state departments, CSOs, NGOs, and community may speak and act with a common language and progress together towards becoming a sustainable urban nation in 2030. Lastly, the spirit of the Women's Assembly reflected the urgency that the country needs to advance gender equality. As we know, gender equality is both the catalyst and accelerator towards achieving all of the sustainable development goals.
Hello and good evening. My name is Muhammad Akil Azudin. I am the representative for the Youth Statement of Action. We, the youth, gathered here at a Youth Assembly at Malaysian Urban Forum of 2020 are the key agents in achieving sustainable United Nations for the 2030. 3 actionable plans have been formulated together as a result of discussion represented by youth groups from various and diverse backgrounds. The first one is to establish partnerships between various youth groups and local authorities in Malaysia to foster youth participation in decision-making process for the plannings of our cities, for the benefit of exchanging, developing, and improving our cities. Secondly, develop youth alliance with all the formal and informal youth stakeholders in the communities. Together, we can implement programs and projects to address the issues of our fellow youth and to provide to the less exposed and less fortunate youth in Malaysia. Lastly, we can help to create a safe and healing programs for the youth in urban areas to provide well-being, financial, educational, as well as skills development support to make sure everyone has an equal access and an opportunity to a brighter future. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera dan good afternoon to everyone. So my name is nama saya Fatin Farhana binti Abdul Majid daripada Persatuan Penduduk Seksyen 6 Shah Alam, mewakili golongan Akak Umbi yang terdiri daripada Persatuan Penduduk, golongan B40, Badan Bukan Kerajaan dan golongan Kelainan Upaya yang telah bersidang pada Grassroots Assembly Malaysian Urban Forum 2020. Golongan Akak Umbi merupakan pemacu ke arah bandar. Justeru itu, kami bersedia untuk memperkasakan kempen dalam kalangan masyarakat Akak Umbi melalui pendedahan maklumat yang tepat, berinformasi dan telus. Kami juga bersedia untuk memastikan, kami juga bersedia untuk mengukuhkan kolaborasi, rangkaian kerjasama dan perkongsian pelbagai sektor untuk menyokong matlamat pembangunan bandar mampan Sustainable Development Goals di kalangan penduduk grassroots kelompok Akak Umbi. Selain daripada itu, kami juga akan memastikan data di peringkat Selain itu, kami juga memastikan data di peringkat tempatan tersedia untuk menyokong perancangan polisi, proses membuat keputusan dan pelaksanaan yang lebih holistik merangkumi semua kalangan masyarakat. Last sekali, kami akan memastikan kesedaran dan pelibatan menyeluruh di kalangan masyarakat akar umbi dalam pembangunan bandar Mampan. Sekian saja, terima kasih.
Salam sejahtera, nama saya Darren Douglas. Saya mewakili City Leaders. Dengan izin, saya akan berucap dalam bahasa Inggeris. A warm regards to all of you. I'm Darren Douglas. I'm representing the City Leaders, and this is our statement of actions. We, gathered at the City Leaders Assembly at Malaysia, Urban Forum 2020, believe, think globally, act locally, and incorporate the new, what we learned was, learn globally, practice locally, with a comprehensive agenda agreed to. Number one, adapt the goals and targets set at the national level to our own local reality. We seek to advance the entire SDGs matter to end poverty, achieve inclusive economic prosperity, reduce inequality, and ensure peaceful, just, and inclusive societies while promoting environmental sustainability and confronting climate change. Number two, we respond directly to the challenges and opportunities of our communities to provide a framework to integrate all our work, understand the interdependence of all the issues, and the transparently measures our progress, and to coordinate with all together to contribute to, with the many different stakeholders. Govern stakeholders as important role in promoting, building, and sustaining dynamic transformative partnerships from the bottom up. We will use and work with the people together from the bottom up in this country. We are vital for promoting sustainable development by allowing local leaders, our own people, to harness pooling of knowledge together and exchange of experience and the generation of a feasible institutional framework for the fruitful collaborations of making this SDG a success. Thank you.
Thank you everyone who is part of the Malaysia Urban Forum Assemblies. We hope to continue facilitating the dialogue and expedite action plans to really push the needle in this decade of action. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, now we proceed to the next event. We would like to call upon Town Planner Madam Nurliza Hashim to deliver the roundup report of MUF2020. Please be invited.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan selamat petang. Yang saya hormati, yang berbahagia, Datuk Zainal, our Ketua Setiausaha untuk Kementerian Perumahan dan Kerajaan Tempatan, Datuk Sri Maimunah binti Sharif, the Executive Director of UN Habitat, and of course Datuk Azhar, the Timbalan Ketua Setiausaha KPKT, dan juga Datuk Dol Bani Mijan, which is our Board of Director. Probably my role is actually to give you an overview of what has happened over the last 3 days that we have had this event. As everyone know, we have run it for 3 days, and the theme of our event is towards a sustainable urban nation. When we started to think about what we should be discussing this year, because last year we had the same theme, but we didn't have sub-themes because we wanted it to be a more open dialogue. So last year there was a lot of interest in certain fields, and we realized that a lot of the discussions that people wanted is actually very focused on grounded issues. So this year we decided to have 5 sub-themes, but with the same goal and objective. That's why we introduced the 5 sub-themes of inclusive urbanization, innovation and technology for sustainability, urban resilience and low carbon, culture and creative cities, and financing sustainability. So it's not, I would say it's not really like we've covered every topic, but we decided that, there's very little time, and also it's not possible that you could cover the entire scope of urbanization. Hence, we prioritize, and that's why we focus on only these 5 sub-themes this year. But having said that, the 3 days that we have had this event, we actually held 3 high-level dialogues, 5 special sessions, 2 roundtables, 4 stakeholders assemblies, 2 urban talks, and 18 networking sessions, and 2 training sessions. And all of that, actually, we involve about 180 speakers altogether. And on top of that, we were very ambitious. We wanted to still have the exhibition. So we thought that why not have a virtual exhibition? We're really pushing ourselves to the limit. But I think not many people could understand what is a virtual exhibition, because normally when you go for exhibition, you see things physically, But now you go through a virtual world and you experience it in a 3-dimension manner. So we only had 9 exhibitors who were very supportive of what we are doing, and we are very, very thankful to these 9 exhibitors. So this 3 days event, we've sort of developed it in a line where there are 3 segments that we wanted to focus. On day 1, we wanted to see where we are, what have we achieved, because we've been actually committed to the sustainable agenda since 2015. But we're not sure whether where everybody is. We know that out of all the agendas that Malaysia have committed to, the SDGs actually have a big, I would say, fan club, because it's not only done by government, but it's also being done by private sectors and all kinds of organizations. But we've never really stock take as to where and what has been done. So day 1 is trying to find out actually where we are, and if we know where we are, how do we accelerate it further? So that's what the high-level dialogue actually sets that scene. On day 2, we wanted to speak a lot more on leadership, because if we're going to take it forward, we would like to understand the kind of leadership that's required, the kind of governance that's required to actually bring the agenda much, much forward. And most important, as you know, in anything that we do, we cannot do it alone. And that's why day 3, which is today, we very much focus on the agenda of partnerships. So that's the 3 segments on how the 3 high-level dialogues were actually put into place. And Malaysia Urban Forum, something that we learned actually from UN Habitat through our work in World Urban Forum, is that it's a very unique platform, because it brings 2 different big stakeholder groups. One is the stakeholder groups which you saw. We managed to bring 4 groups this year, which is the women's group, the youth, the grassroots, and the city leaders. Last year, we had the business group, but we cannot manage to have the business group this year. We didn't have enough, response to be able to host it. But we introduced grassroots, which was challenging to us. It was very small this year, but we wanted to try to understand what the grassroots really think, really want, and how they feel that their needs are being taken care of. So that's one group of people that we normally bring into the discussion. But the second group that we normally want to have a discussion with is the different kind of stakeholders representatives, from the academia, from the professionals, from the government agencies, and from the industries. And from the industries, we would like to listen to the groups from the financial sectors, from the corporate sectors, and from each individual industrial sectors, whether it's housing, whether it's environment, that's actually how we structure the discussion. So that's where every time when we place a panel on a podium or on the stage, we try to have a very multi-stakeholder representative. And we try, Datuk Sri, to make it as gender balanced as possible. Datuk Sri Maimuna told me when I asked her to come for this forum, make sure it's gender balanced, 50%. I think I'm not really achieved your 50%, Datuk Sri, but I'm almost there. I'm about 40%. It has been quite challenging, actually. I thought that it'd be easy, but really, really tough, to put and get the right people up. Or maybe they're not even willing to come forward. So we'll try again, and definitely we'll work towards gender balance. So there has been occasion like some panels we ended up with, like the first high-level dialogue 1 was a very all-men kind of a stage, But anyway, I'm sure we will definitely work on that towards getting into gender balance. Now, going into the discussions itself, I think this is probably, I feel that overall, I find that in all the rooms that I've been involved in, the energy level is very good this year. The people that are speaking, definitely they create a lot of synergy between each other. There's a lot of richness in the discussions that were held. Our biggest challenge probably is our audience. Our audience are half virtual and half physical. So when we had MUF in KLCC, everyone was there. We could feel and see the emotions. This time around, we only see a little bit of emotions in the room and a lot virtually, so you're not able to really engage. So that's something that is very challenging for us to understand whether what we're doing is well accepted, whether it's the reception of the people itself. But we are actually quite happy with the numbers, but I hope the numbers that we saw are real. So these are some of the statistics that's actually happening throughout these 3 days. So as you can see, Dato', we had about 4,000 people who registered. People who are present, because we have so many sessions, they go in and out and they're changing numbers. So in total, about 500 people that actually came to Bangunan Sulaiman. And we also have about 4,000 total people attending the virtual networking session. And exhibition visitors is about 3,000. But this afternoon, I got an update that we actually had, just for today, we had 2,000. So that's good numbers. And speakers and panelists, if we include moderators and all, so we've got about 200 of them. And of course, in terms of total social media outreach, it has actually been very good. So the number is 120,000? Oh, okay, that's great. So, so these are things that we've been working on. We just worried that, the time that we spend putting this together, whether or not it has reached out. But what I know is that we're not only having local attention, we also have some people from other parts of the world listening to the discussion that Malaysia is having over the last 3 days. In terms of the high-level dialogue that was discussed among there were very eminent panelists, definitely we can see the concern on SDG is very real among the panelists that came, and they represent different backgrounds. In the first acceleration of SDG implementation, partnerships are raised from time to time again, even as part of moving forward, they are emphasizing on partnership being very crucial. Science as a key to sustainable development, I think that's something that is also important, and how we should have innovative solutions, learning from Poland, where the ambassador himself was here. And there was a lot of discussion on collaboration between stakeholders in addressing the SDGs, and education was highlighted as very crucial, and how we should strengthen regulations in order to achieve and be more successful in our SDGs implementation. And there's a lot of discussion on aligning our plans, our budgets, and how we could improve our policies, and also having local diagnosis in terms of ensuring our SDGs are being implemented properly. In leadership and governance, we actually had a very interesting discussion. The panelists were challenging us to say that if you really want SDGs to be understood, it needs to be understood by the man on the street, orang yang dekat pasar, orang yang dekat gerai. So that to me, yes, it's a big challenge, you know. And I think if we can get to that point, that's where I think we will be successful. But I recall my own experience when I attended MUF2020 in Vancouver. I think it was MUF2020 in Vancouver, right? I was there attending World Urban Forum 3, and we were on a bus, and we brought about 50 delegates from Malaysia. And because I brought them at that time under Malaysian Institute of Planners, and the busman told me that he couldn't stop where I wanted him to stop. And I asked him why. He said that, you know, if I don't want to burn carbon, you know, and they've changed the route, and if I go and make another round, I'll be burning more carbon in this process. I was taken aback because that's a long time ago. MUF2020 was in 2000, can't remember Datuk Sri. But you know, that's where when the discussion on vernacular, how do I say this word? Vernacularization was mentioned yesterday. Yeah, it occurred to me the people in Vancouver understood it because the bus driver could tell me about carbon emission, and he doesn't want to take an extra around the block because he said that he'll be burning carbon. So I think if we come to that level of public understanding, the group on leadership and governance talk about the importance of civic education, engagement, you know, and the need for more granular data that is to be shared with the community. They also talk about a new template for sustainable leadership, on the need to rethink about what we are doing and the role of the younger generation. And I think a lot of the leaders call for mindset change. So I think this is something to be thought about. And of course, the panel also highlighted on the importance of evidence-based decision-making for effectiveness of whatever we do. In partnership today, definitely we can see the SDG, the call is SDG require these concerted efforts at all levels. And to strengthen it up, a bottom-up approach is needed. And a new modality of partnership is required. And I think sustainable partnerships is talking about all levels and the role of technology as a leveler, and to include all the vulnerable groups as partners. And I think this is where partnership requires, as one of the panelists has said, a 360-degree turn, a 3-feet level approach, you know, and definitely it must be participative and inclusive. And there's a lot of call for sharing of information, sharing of data, in order for us to empower more people to participate in this process, whether it is solution, whether it's decision making, and whether it's even talking about actions on the ground. So I think these high-level dialogues are important, and I was just telling some people in the room that every time you do an assembly, you're hoping that they help you to solve the problem. But I find that my responsibility gets a bit bigger each time I have this World Urban Forum. The stakeholder groups generally have spoken for themselves, which they presented just now. But what we wanted to present to you is that's the commitment that we had. I've never seen such committed women's group, youth group, and the energy level was very high in the room, you know. They organized themselves. We were just coming to observe, actually. And, you know, they were taking control, and that's what is actually important. The grassroots groups, I commend them because they didn't understand why they were called, but they participate, they gave their full cooperation, and I really, want to thank the representative that came up on stage today. And of course, the city leaders, we brought all kinds of groups of city leaders that represents not only the decision makers. When we talk about leaders, we sometimes only think that they should be the government or they should be the ones just making decision. But we have leaders on the ground that represents varied groups, and that's what we were trying to do with the city leaders. We actually have two round tables, and why we decided on a round table, because these were issues that came out from MUF1. One was the age-friendly city. We had a full house last year, and the second is arts and culture as the fourth pillar of sustainability. Now, the groups that actually have put this together, and they actually helped us to develop the frameworks and all, because we had a pre-lab. They are actually come from a very passionate group of people. So what I can say is that from these two round tables, they've actually very clearly outlined the problems. They've also very clearly outlined what needs to be done. And I think we are thinking of whether or not it's possible that these two round tables could come with a position paper where it could actually spell out exactly the findings from the Malaysia Urban Forum. So that's where I find that the synergy between the people that comes, they represent quite a wide group of interests. And I think this is where they've outlined not only the role of government, that is what I like about it, but also their role. Their role as people, their role as the organizations that's actually participating in this dialogue. We actually have 5 special sessions. One is Housing for All, which was hosted by the UN Habitat. The second is actually Urban Resilience and Low Carbon. And the third is on poverty, urban poverty. And the fourth is on financing sustainability. And the fifth is technology and innovation. So I would say that in these special sessions, everyone agree that, because we won't have time to go through the details, but everyone generally agree that we need to have more discussions. So that's something that we are thinking at our level on how to break this down further, how we are going to have more labs and discuss it, and maybe break down the subject matter even more. Because I think we heard a lot of, we're not only hearing about problems. What was very interesting this year is we heard about people that actually took over and did something. For example, in the urban poverty, we had groups that actually organized themselves at the local level to take care of the urban poor. And I think that's not only incredible, it's actually what we are not aware of. Even I myself are not aware of such initiatives on the ground. So I think these are important things that we need to take note of. And of course, at the financing sustainability, the topics discussed on all kinds, from value assets, financing, poverty eradication, CSR, and even about talking about wakaf, zakat, infaq, and even about crowdfunding, And it was a very interesting discussion. We even have a very young person was talking about how they managed to actually look at crowdfunding as a way to help businesses, to make them more sustainable. And of course, today we had technology and innovation, a fantastic deliberation by the panel. And definitely what we want to do with all these findings is that to share it with everyone. We also have a 1UN session, where at the 1UN session, we shared about the voluntary local review. That's actually a guideline undertaken by the Penang Platform for Sustainable Urbanization, which is an outcome of our APUF, Asia Pacific Urban Forum, held in Penang earlier, actually last year, October last year. Time flies so fast. I forgot which zone I am. But at that 1UN, we had the sharing from IGES, we had the sharing from UN Habitat, and we had the sharing also from UNDP on what's being done on the VLR, and the resident coordinator joined us in that session. And of course, at the SGG cities yesterday, we had Shah Alam sharing their work. We had the international experience of the SDG cities by UN Habitat, also by UCLG ASPEC, which covers 14 countries. And we also had someone, Alice from the EU, sharing on how they are doing it in terms at the European part of the world. So I think that's about it, because I would take a lot of time if I'm going to go through. We've actually come out with bulletins on the, very short bulletins on the third one hasn't come out, because we haven't finished the third day, but the 2 days are out, what went on the first and second day. But please look through the website. What's going to happen is that all our sessions are put on video. They've been taped. So what we intend to do is actually to actually air them, continue to air them, because I think we need to continue to share it. However, we're probably going to structure it a bit so that it's not just loosely put up on YouTube and just like that. It probably needs some narration to help the audience understand what we are sharing with them. I think the good thing about the virtual platform is that it actually has more outreach, though we don't see people physically. So we are really hoping, it's a big test for us. I just want to say my apologies for any hiccups, because it's a big test on how good our bandwidth is, you know, because in a day, we don't get the same strength actually, Dato'. There are ups and downs. So it does affect with our transmission online. So we've been having some hiccups here and there, but I just want to say thank you to my wonderful team from Urbanis and the wonderful crew that have helped us, from PICO, from the MCP team, you know, and of course from AIAC. They've had sleepless night trying to, you know, just following what we want, you know, because the objectives and the intention is so huge, but I think we have a lot of challenges. So thank you very much, especially to Dato' for taking time to be with us and to support what this Malaysia Urban Forum. Thank you very much, Dato'.
Thank you, Madam Noliza. Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, let's sit back and watch what we have gone through for the past 3 days in the highlight video of Malaysia Urban Forum 2020.
And though COVID-19 has brought us much challenges and pain, it has at the same time brought us all together to think on what's best for the people.
If well planned and well managed, urbanization can be a powerful tool for sustainable development for both developing nations and developed nations.
I believe this is the first urban forum held during this COVID-19 period. declare the Malaysia Urban Forum 2020 officially open.
There we have it, Malaysia Urban Forum 2020. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for your involvement for 3 days.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is our honor to invite Her Excellency Datuk Sri Maimunah binti Muhammad Sharif, Executive Director of UN Habitat, to deliver her speech. Please be invited, Her Excellency.
Terima kasih saudari pengacara majlis. Yang berbahagia, Datuk Zainal Abidin bin Abu Hassan, Secretary General of the Ministry of Housing and Local Government, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues, partners, friends, warm greetings from Malaysia, wherever you are in this world. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat tengah hari dan salam sejahtera. On behalf of the United Nations Human Settlement Programs, UN Habitat, it is with immense pleasure that I am here with you today for the closing ceremony of the 2020 Malaysian Urban Forum, the world's first hybrid urban forum in 2020 and marking a milestone for Malaysia. Congratulations. Thanks again for inviting UN Habitat to be a global partner alongside the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific, together in partnership with the United Nations country team in Malaysia. This is truly one UN endeavor. Let me commend the organizing committee of Urbanism Malaysia while offering my deep appreciation to Yang Berhormat Minister Puan Hajah Zuraida binti Kamarudin and KPKT for the foresight in hosting this unique and timely event as the whole of Malaysia and indeed the world prepares for the monumental task for building back better and greener. Ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 is a wake-up call for all of us. From the highest levels to those sitting in the highest towers, the pandemic has brought us all to the same level. Humanity cannot survive without real consideration for our ecosystem. Just as Malaysia has achieved success through a whole-of-nation approach, we cannot return to the old normal if you want to live in a healthy planet. Let me issue a call to action and ask that each of every one of us focus on how we can contribute as individuals to the global recovery. Yesterday we were informed it took 5,000 liters of water to make one hamburger. If we want things to change, let it begin with us as an individuals. We can start by altering the way we live, travel, work, and eat. We need to change the culture transformation. All of us need to step out of old mindsets to embrace new ways of thinking to ensure that urbanization is truly sustainable. Do we really need more tower blocks and office buildings when most of us can work from home? How do we regenerate our existing urban fabric before we build new cities? How do we ensure a future where urbanization contributes to bringing together people, jobs, and opportunities? How does urbanization lead to more equitable national economic growth? We need to look beyond Green Building Index to Well-being Building Index. This is what I learned from the webinar throughout the COVID, Dato'. We have the Green Building Index, now we need to do Well-being Building Index. I'm reminded by the words shared by Yang Amat Berhormat Tan Sri, our Perdana Menteri, during the opening ceremony. We must reduce the burden of poor households. Poverty eradication is the challenge of our generations. As duty bearers, we need to localize and mainstream sustainability among our citizens. I recall that when I was a mayor, after our 4R campaign, not 3R, Dato', 4R. 4R is the recycle, reuse, and also rethinking. Reduce, reuse, recycle, rethinking. I think the part rethinking is most important now. It's rethinking in everything that we do. And during that campaign, school children were very proud that no garbage truck ever visited their school because we implemented at that time zero waste. Everything was recycled, reused, and waste reduced. So at UN Habitat in 2018, we launched Waste-Wise Cities. And I encourage cities in Malaysia, Asia Pacific, and around the world to participate in our Waste-Wise Cities program. A key message from the youth, grassroots, women, and city leaders is that we must ensure the next phase of urbanization leave no one and no place behind. In the case of Malaysia, we must learn from and apply and act upon lessons obtained to support a national housing policy and better cater for B40 and household. We also need to strengthen the women empowerment and partnership. So I hope that in the next Malaysian Urban Forum 2021, Puan Noliza, maybe we can get 50-50 participation. We must continue to advocate for affordable homes, promoting cleaner, greener, and more inclusive cities. The Assemblies has urged the public to reassess the social, health, and well-being dimension of the second national urbanization policy to ensure it carries on serving the people. We heard during the first high-level dialogue from my colleague, UN Resident Coordinator, Stephen, on the needs to align budgets and plan to the SDGs, encouraging policy dialogue at all levels, and bolstering public budgets while supporting fiscal decentralization and transfer. During the Urban Talk yesterday, we heard from Tan Sri Jamila, advisor to the Prime Minister of Health, about Malaysia COVID-19 response effort, which is holistic and that prioritizes the most vulnerable communities, but at the same time, empowering CSOs to help deliver support in an integrated manner. While from the city themselves, in Malaysia's SDG City session, Yang Bahagia Datuk Haji Datuk Haris Kasim, we heard about model for cities to support VLRs comprising cities profiling, visioning, and action. I am very grateful for this, along with so many other messages I have gained from the forum and also mentioned by Puan Noliza earlier. Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister said there is an estimated 2.7 million low-income households in Malaysia, earning less than 4,360 ringgit Malaysia a month. The pandemic is continuing to present cascading pressures on job security, the capacity to pay rent and access public services, or even the ability to purchase essential food and medicinal supplies. Debt and limited saving is impacting even among middle-income households. Like many countries, the pandemic shined the light on a fragile economic situation where at least 38% of the 7.4 million active superannuation members do not have enough saving to withdraw RM500 a month, pushing vulnerable communities to the brink. Malaysia must consider how to embrace a more geographical balanced view of regional and territorial planning, which explicitly and purposely implement related policy and planning process responses and interventions that empower cities, reduce inequalities, and strengthen urban-rural linkages. We need decentralization. Together with the government at all levels, UN Habitat as the custodian for SDG 11 and other urban-related SDGs target remain committed to supporting these communities toward the achievement of sustainable, inclusive, and resilient cities and right to an adequate standard of living as a universally recognized human right. In Malaysia and several countries globally, UN Habitat is assisting the formulation and implementation of evidence-based and participatory housing policies and strategies. UN Habitat in Malaysia is also working beyond simply housing and urban policy, but rather a diverse array of activities with support from various partners in the areas of city profiling and capital investment, revitalizing public spaces, integrated mobility plans, digital solution for safety and security, and capacity building. Through the United Nations Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework 2021 to 2025 being developed together with the government of Malaysia and which recognizes competitive, sustainable and inclusive urban development as an integral collaborative output, the United Nations country team in Malaysia is working together to align with the development strategies outlined in the midterm review of the 11 Malaysia Plan and towards the implementation of the 12th Malaysia Plan. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2018, the 9th World Urban Forum, we had the Kuala Lumpur Declaration. Let us live up to the aspiration set out in the Kuala Lumpur Declaration. Earlier this year, at the 10th World Urban Forum, we had the Abu Dhabi Declared Action. We resolved to move away from declaration to declared action precisely because the signs were there that we need to translate policy to practice and impact. And I hope that this report of this 2020, we can report back in 2022 at MUF2020 in Katowice, Poland. COVID-19 is an often cast as having pushed back 10 years in our journey to achieve the SDG. In some areas, this is true. More people will be pushed into poverty and we are bracing the mass unemployment even in developed economies. However, COVID-19 is a pause button on our unsustainable growth trajectory. At the rate we are going, we would require at least 3 planet Earth to sustain our meat-eating habit alone. Instead, let us use the COVID moment to change our ways. Let us use it to truly rededicate ourselves to the decade of action on the SDGs. Let us make the next 10 years really count. This is no longer about our future generation. The pandemic is here, and it is with us now. In closing, I would like to reinforce the call by United Nations Secretary General for solidarity, unity, and hope in battling COVID-19 pandemic and responding to the worst economic and social crisis in generations. It has been my utmost privilege to have participated in the 2020 Malaysia Urban Forum this year, a tradition and leadership of Malaysia showcase the world, which I hope will continue for years to come. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We also want to take the opportunity to say a special thank you to our sponsors, Shah Alam City Council for being our main sponsor, Prima, and GTALCC, which is Green Technology Application for the delivery of low-carbon cities. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the moment that we have been waiting for, it is with our great pleasure to invite our guest of honor, the Honorable Datuk Zainal Abidin bin Abu Hassan, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Housing, Local and Government, to deliver his closing remarks. Please be invited, the Honorable Datuk.
Thank you, ladies. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Her Excellency Datuk Sri Maimunah binti Mat Sharif, Executive Director of UN Habitat, Datuk Azhar Ahmad, Yang Bagi Datuk Azhar, Deputy Secretary General, Ministry of Housing and Local Government, Chief Executive Urbanist Malaysia, Town Planner Nuriza Hashim, also Yang Bahagia Datuk Dr. Dolbani, Town Planner, so as a board member, right? Distinguished guests, speakers, participants, representative of local and international and physically and virtually. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Alhamdulillah. Praise to be Allah, we have reached the end of the Malaysia Urban Forum 2020, and it is my task to provide some closing remarks. It is a task that is done with a heavy heart as we close the door on lively and stimulating debates, the sharing of thoughts and building of ideas, as well as bidding farewell to our guests, friends, scholars, professionals, stakeholders, sponsors, and media. However, it is also a privilege and an honor to be entrusted with such an undertaking at a gathering of such eminent people from various different backgrounds that had promoted discussions and sharing of knowledge and solutions towards developing and addressing the many challenges that we face in becoming a sustainable and developed nation. I would like to express my gratitude and special thanks to the Honorable Tan Sri Datuk Haji Muhammad Muhyiddin bin Haji Muhammad Yassin, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, for opening the Malaysian Urban Forum 2020. The Honorable Prime Minister, during his opening speech, had remarked, with just 10 years to achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, we should not only address the challenges and aspirations mentioned, but we need to report and show our action plans, progress and efforts towards the achievement of the SDGs in view of the vision of Malaysia to be a sustainable urban nation. SDGs agenda is not about showcasing or competition, but require concerted efforts by ministries and agencies at national, state and local levels to work together, align our policies, strategies and determine local actions to ensure that our future growth will take place in a more responsible, integrated and sustainable manner. I believe that all you have done well through the 3 days of MUF2020 in strengthening to ensure integration and cooperation on policy matters and better coordination of action plans to reduce mismatch between real needs and plans. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I was informed that you have had fruitful discussions, though I'm sure 3 days is not enough to formulate and produce the action plans. This should continue in different knowledge platforms, workshops, and labs that need to address the challenges raised, to develop actions that are guided by the SDG goals and aligned to our national policies on sustainability. Ministry of Housing and Local Government will always be prioritized, helping the people, and will continue to find various ways to help raise the standard of living for Malaysians. Indeed, as more people continue to live in cities, the urban future will be full of challenges, from the person to the community, from physical, environmental, social, political and economic perspective. Most of all, the people must come first. It is about making the city livable, equitable, and one that provides a good quality of life for all Malaysians. I congratulate Urbanist Malaysia as a center of excellence and a think tank agency under my ministry for organizing and hosting the Malaysia Urban Forum 2020. We have set a new standard with the first urban forum during this COVID-19 period. I applaud the innovation used to do a live and virtual forum platform that has allowed for active multi-stakeholders dialogues and discussions. I would also like to acknowledge the good efforts in the inclusion of city leaders, women, youth, grassroots and elders in this forum. It is commendable, as I believe their role in ensuring cities are livable and sustainable is important, and together with our ministry, they can play a more active role in making our cities and living environment more livable, more sustainable, and most importantly, well-planned, smarter, and greener. I am also happy and satisfied to hear on the commitments given by the various stakeholder groups that has given their statement of actions that is leading towards a transformative pathway in order to achieve the sustainable agenda by 2030. This, I hope, will be used as the yardsticks to measure the progress of works by stakeholders group and can be the key points in next year and other future urban forums. I wish also to thank UN Habitat for being the partner for this important program and the presence of and support of the Executive Director, Datuk Sri Maimunah Sharif, for 3 days event and other United Nations organs like United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia Pacific, UNDP, United Nations Development Program, and UCLG ASPEC, United Cities and Local Government for Asia Pacific. Thank you for supporting this important forum. Thank you also to all delegates, speakers, moderators, partners, sponsors, and volunteers of the Malaysia Urban Forum 2020. The future of our cities is for us to shape, and I look forward to reading your ideas and outcomes in greater detail. The reporting that will be submitted to my ministry will be part of the foundation of ministry's pathway towards a more dynamic and integrated ministry. And I would like to close my remarks and officially announce the end of the MUF 2020, wishing the future prosperity and well-being of all participating individuals and organizations. May God Almighty bless us on our effort. And with lafaz Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, in the name of Allah, the most righteous, the most merciful, I declare the Malaysia Urban Forum 2020 officially closed. Together, we will work to build a stronger Malaysia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Datuk. Let's give a big round of applause again, ladies and gentlemen. And sir, we would like to invite all the honorables to take a photo, a group photo with all the audience on the floor, and I would invite all the photographers and videographers upstage to take this moment. Kindly please wear your mask on and keep your social distancing, honorable sirs and madam. Thank you very much, everyone here today. Ladies and gentlemen, we now announce the departure of the Secretary General of the Ministry of Housing and Local Government, the Honorable Datuk Zainal Abidin bin Abu Hassan, accompanied by other honorable guests. To the rest of our delegates, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to thank to all of you for the participancy for the whole 3 days. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and thank you. Hope you have a great day today. Ladies and gentlemen, we will invite all the honorable guests to go to the lower ground at the dining hall because there's food that will be served to all of you. Please be invited. Thank you.